So I'm not a big fan of PowerPoints. I find them a little bit boring. So before I proceed any further, I just want to make sure everyone can see the screen. So just say yes or no in the chat if you can see it, please. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So like I was saying, I like to build an actual landing page since this is the topic that we're going to be going over. So I thought this would be best. And if you actually want to go visit this landing page as I'm speaking, I'll send the link in the chat right now. So let me just send that over. And then that will take you over to what I'm looking at. And this is, so you can have it after this presentation ends. You can look at it on your phone. You can have it here, wherever you want. It's ready, it's available, and everything that I talk about will be linked here, and we'll get into it. So first off, I just want to explain what is a landing page. So a landing page is a page on your website that's designed for users to complete like a desired goal or interaction. So in the case of this landing page, for example, the goal is to get someone's contact information for the potential of me helping them with SEO in the future. It's not the main primary goal. I mean, I'm here for educational purposes. This isn't so that way I can make money. So it's not really like the focus, but in other applications and other landing pages that I build, whether it's for the example with painting contractors, doing a painting kitchen cabinets landing page, that's the desired goal I'm most accustomed to. For the example of e-commerce, well, then you're trying to get someone to purchase something on your website. So that's essentially what a landing page is. What is a landing page for SEO though? So SEO is a really big all-encompassing topic, and what that is search engine optimization. So how your website ranks when someone searches something on Google. And an example I always like to use is Apple. So let's say you're searching for an Apple MacBook, or even let's take it one step further and go, or one step behind and search laptop or best laptop. So if you search best laptop, I'm using Bing just because it loads a little bit faster. I don't typically do this. I'm a Google diehard fan, so please excuse my Bing results showing up right here. But if you look at the search results, I mean, they're pretty similar between Bing and Google. So first option is the best laptops for 2021, PC Mag. Next one is Tom's Guide and Best Buy and these other ones. So best reviews. You're not actually seeing Apple show up as when someone searches the best laptop because they don't have the SEO for that. If you search Apple MacBook, well, then you better bet that Apple is going to be the first organic listing right here. And then you go take a look at their page and you'll notice that the Apple pages, they're pretty static, simple to use, and the whole goal of this is so that way they can rank organically at the top of the page for anyone searching their product. And then once you get a little bit further into their website, like something like the MacBook Air, you'll notice that their pages are a little bit more, it's not doing it right now, but earlier when I was browsing this page, I probably have to refresh it. Their pages are a little bit more catered to the user experience or the kind of like wow factor of the page. Like you can see there's these animations that pull up with it. This is showing this. There's a video that plays, and you don't get that experience when you're on their actual homepage of apple.com. And the reason for this is because the whole focus of their homepage is for these SEO purposes. Sure, it's aesthetically pleasing, but there's a primary goal of them ranking. And that's something that I was talking about in a previous presentation of it's a balancing act between functionality and what your desired intentions are. So SEO, there's a lot to it. So you have to keep in mind that when you're building pages for SEO, you're gonna have to sacrifice some aspects of your website so that way you can get the best chance of ranking on Google. Something else I wanna mention about search engine optimization is that it's not just a quick solution for your business. It's a long-term digital strategy. So typically it takes between like 3 to 6 months before you'll actually see results from your SEO efforts. And I'm a prime example of this. So I started this business DOS-M about 6 months ago. It was it was October 12th when I officially launched this business. So here we are at 6 months from now where I've actually been working on SEO over that time. So we can actually see how it performs from someone starting out compared to something that's already established. And then another thing that we'll get into is what is exactly search engine optimization. And I categorize SEO into kind of two categories. There's on-page SEO and then there's off-page SEO. And I would say a lot of people are more familiar with on-page than they are off-page. And this is because on-page is like the simple stuff, or what I call simple. Off-page gets a little bit more complicated. But for on-page, like the first thing that you're looking at is the actual page performance. So how you build the page, because You can do everything else correctly. Like you can have keyword optimization, you can have relevant content, but if you don't have good page speed and if your site isn't working on mobile, Google or Bing or any of these search engines aren't going to recommend your website. So you have to put page performance as kind of one of the most important things when you're doing this and optimizing your landing pages. Next is keyword optimizations. So everything from your title, so up here, here's the title, the H1, the actual titles in kind of like the back end, like your headers, the actual text within the website, your image alt text, every little component that you put on your website's landing page needs to be focused around a certain keyword that you're trying to rank for. And then for the example of this, the keyword that I'm trying to rank for in SEO is specifically landing pages for SEO. That is the keyword I'm after. So you'll see, where is it? When building landing pages for SEO, here it is in the text. Landing pages for SEO. Well, I use to build landing pages for SEO. So it's throughout this landing page that I'm implementing these keywords, and you can't just force it in there. It has to be natural to whatever you're talking about. And then another thing about on-page SEO is content relevancy. So just because you're throwing a keyword in doesn't mean that it's going to be good SEO. You have to be talking about relevant content. Google's going to favor a landing page that is most resembled like this is relevant to what they're optimizing a keyword for. So for the example of this is I'm talking about landing pages for SEO. So there's kind of two main things that are in this. There's landing pages and then there's SEO. And since I write blog articles pretty consistently, I try and do 3 a month. I'm a little behind right now, but here are some of my recent blog articles, building a landing page for SEM versus SEO. Well, that shows that this is kind of relevant because I'm linking this to eternally into my own site where I talk about this topic. Elementor Landing Pager 2021, honest review. 5 amazing tips for landing page optimization. Again, this is just showing that the content that I am creating in this landing page is relevant to other things on my site. And these are all minor, like there's a bunch of factors that go into how you rank, and these are part of it. So this is everything that I'm doing to ensure that I have content relevancy within this. And this is something that's a little bit challenging in my own business because I do digital optimizations, I do digital marketing and things like that, but the niche that I'm specifically after is tattoo artists, tattoo shops, and I find myself talking a lot about what I know in the digital marketing world, and it's hard for the algorithm to decipher, like, okay, this guy randomly has like a tattoo page for tattoo websites on his website, and then he's talking about landing pages. Like, it doesn't make sense in Google's eyes, so you have to create enough content and have enough that helps Google understand, like, okay, this guy does digital marketing for tattoos, or tattoo shops, tattoo artists. And that's where I'm starting to finally see these results take into effect. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Next, I'm going to talk about off-page SEO. And this, I would say, is like just as important as on-page SEO. You can't have one without the other. One of the biggest factors in determining if you rank on the front page of Google and how high you rank on the front page of Google is your domain authority. And essentially how I like to describe SEO is that the internet is one big popularity contest. And Google, the algorithm, doesn't want to recommend unpopular websites. So it wants to recommend the most popular websites. So how do you become a popular website? Well, that's backlinks. Backlinks is essentially how you get determined as popular or unpopular, because if a popular website, like for example, Apple, is referring out to another one of these like Tom's Hardware websites, well, then they're going to see that as a credible source. And they're going to say like, okay, this popular website is talking to this website, so it must be somewhat popular. And backlinks aren't just when one other website sends a link to your website. They also work in the sense of when you send links off to other websites. For example, when I talk about rank math, here is technically a backlink that sends traffic to rank math's site. That is considered a backlink, but it's not as valuable as if Rank Math would specifically link to this landing page. That would be a much more beneficial backlink to my website. And backlinks are extremely challenging and hard to get. That's something I struggle with personally as a digital marketer, is generating backlinks. In the past, when I was working with an agency, we specifically hired a PR person that would help us get articles and things like that written about us with digital online newspapers and things, so that way we could generate backlinks to our website. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. And then the third form of backlinks is when you're actually linking within your own site. So these blog articles are a perfect example of that, where I'm linking internally to my own site. And then on these blog articles, there's other things where I send people to other landing pages that I've built. And then lastly, there's citations. And this is more important if you're a local based service rather than kind of like on a national scale. Because if you're a local based service, like for example, like a painting contractor, it doesn't really make too much sense for you to be getting traffic all across the world if you only have a specific search or service area, like a 30-mile radius around your office, or for example. So citations are essentially just backlinks that have information attached to them about your phone number, business address, things of that sort. And they help determine your credibility that you are who you say you are on the web. And this is more important when it comes to SEO for doing something like Google My Business than a landing page, but they are just as important overall, especially when there's so many factors in determining how you rank on the web. You have to definitely consider all of them and do your best to implement them on your landing pages, on your websites, and anything else that you do across the web. And if we have time, I would like to talk more about like my business SEO, because it's a little bit more easier and you see results quicker compared to doing like a website, for example. Here's what I use to build my landing pages for SEO. First, I always start off with a keyword planner to help me generate what's going to be the best keywords to target, whether I'm doing like a blog article or something like this, like a landing page. And typically I'll use Google Keyword Planner for this, just because it's technically free. You get more data if you're actually running ads through Google AdWords compared to if you're just using the free version. But what I love about Google Keyword Planner is that the ability to target specific locations. So again, it goes back to when I was working with painting contractors. I specifically want to know the SEO opportunities of a service area. I don't really care about how much traffic painting kitchen cabinets is getting across the nation or the world. I want to know what it's like specifically for Rhode Island, for example. And then this was a golden nugget that Carlos shared with me a while ago, is also asked. It's this website where it's a great starting point for generating keyword ideas. So pretty much what you do is, like, let's say you knew that you wanted to rank for it's under maintenance. That's unfortunate. But essentially what it does is it generates keyword ideas for you. So you put in like a subject. So for example, you'd put in landing pages, and then it would generate a list of what's the most popular questions asked regarding that keyword that you provide. And then it gets there's other ones built off that website. So for example, the keyword I provide would be landing pages. Well, then I would say is, what's the best platform to build landing pages? And then the next branch off of that would be, is Elementor the best to build landing pages? Which it is. So you should use Elementor, because that's the page builder of choice that I use when I'm building websites. There's nothing inherently wrong when it comes to using like a Wix or a Squarespace site, but it's not going to be the best in the long term, especially if you're focused on SEO. I used to spread misinformation about the fact that Google's algorithm would notice if your websites were built on Wix or Squarespace compared to WordPress, and the algorithm would favor WordPress websites, but that's just not true. What it is that there's a lot more tools and plugins available to WordPress to make SEO easier for you as a website designer or someone managing your own business, compared to using like something like Wix or Squarespace, where their SEO tools are very limited within their platform. So just overall, you're going to have better opportunities if you're using WordPress when it comes to focusing on SEO, for example. And then just overall, like I would say WordPress is the best CMS of choice, just because you get unlimited flexibility with it. You're not stuck within the system of something like Wix. And then again, Elementor, that's my favorite page builder. I've used Beaver Builder, I've used Divi, I've used all of these. There's something about Elementor that's just a sweet spot for me. It makes my workflow easiest. And then what I specifically love about it is that it integrates seamlessly with my Rank Math plugin, which is what I use to SEO a page like this or any blog article that I'm doing. And we'll get into that when I eventually do a live demonstration of all this stuff. And sorry, I didn't quite explain this, but essentially how I have this presentation formatted is the first part will be this, just speaking about everything. Then we'll go in and actually show you how I'll go about it for doing something. And then we'll save time at the end for questions and answers. Next is the tools that I use for on-page SEO, and again, that's Rank Math. In the past, I used to use Yoast just because Yoast was the only thing around until one of my web designers said, like, hey, have you heard about this new tool called Rank Math? Maybe we should give it a try. And then we gave it a try, and we fell in love with it. And what I loved most about Rank Math is that it just immediately exported all of our Yoast settings and imported them into Rank Math. So there was a seamless transition with it. And then additionally, there's all these other kind of add-ons to Rank Math that makes it easier to actually do things to your website. So for example, the redirect functionality of it or generating a sitemap, there's just all these other things about Rank Math that I love about it that made me favor that over something like Yoast. But there's nothing wrong with Yoast. If you like Yoast, continue to use it. You're not going to be at a disadvantage if you're not using Rank Math, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Next is Google Search Console, and this is super important, and this is something I feel like that gets left out of a lot of things. So when I'm working with clients who've hired like an agency to do SEO for them, I always go, can I get access to your Google Search Console? And they'll tell me like one has never been set up, and I am just shocked by that. So if you're focusing on SEO or not, like even if you're not doing SEO, you definitely want to have a Google Search Console profile and index your site with it, just because there's so many benefits to using Google Search Console. What it does is it allows you to monitor your SEO performance, and they'll notify you if there's any issues going on with your website's performance, whether there's like mobile errors or things of that. So I'll show that in a little bit. And next is off-page SEO. So these are all the tools that I've used when I'm doing anything that's off-page related to domain authority or backlinks or citations. My go-to tool is SEMrush. This provides me just kind of a general overview of like what the domain authority is and how many backlinks I have, things of that. It's not free. There's a price for it. Ahrefs 2, that's not free. I used to use that in the past, but I switched over to SEMrush. I do like Ahrefs more, but I just got to deal with SEMrush, so I went with that one. Ubersuggest, that's my go-to if I have to use something that's free. That will tell you your domain authority and your backlinks, and you can get away with the free version for that. And that's made by the SEO guru himself, Neil Patel. He works with Ubersuggest. So if you don't know Neil Patel and you're interested in learning more about SEO after this presentation, go check him out. He's essentially where I've learned most of this information from. So I can't recommend that enough. Next is Moz. Moz is great for the local citations that I was talking about earlier. And then another one is BrightLocal. They also work great for the local citations, but they don't have a free tool like Moz that lets you check yours. But there's another free tool about BrightLocal that I love, which allows you to search as if you're in a specific location, which I'll show in a little bit. So let's actually get into it. Let's show everyone how I would go about doing SEO for a landing page like this. So let me pull up that screen. So the first place that I'm always going to go to is the Keyword Planner tool. This is the starting point all the time. So for example, let's just use what I was already doing. So landing pages. So I knew I was going to be talking about landing pages. So I wanted to figure out what was going to be the best keyword to target. So I just put in landing pages. And that's usually my starting point. If I'm working with a client, so for example, I have a client that's in Norway, and they get a lot of traffic that's in Norway as well as the United States. So for them, I would do Norway and add that to this list just to see what data is going to pull from that area. But that's not too important in this situation. I will throw Canada in because we have someone from Vancouver over here. So let me get Canada into this. And let's just go England as well, or the UK, just because they also speak English and it might be relevant to this. So that's usually kind of like a starting point. I'll choose the locations that are most relevant. If it's specifically tied to like a city or something like that, that's super important for this. So this is the starting point. So landing pages, these are the average monthly searches around it. Competition is more related to spending. So if you're going to do Google AdWords, that's what that's referring to. But you can also use that as just kind of a judgment of how competitive it is in the SEO world. I'm a little skeptical of it being medium. I'm going to say it's high for landing pages. And then if you're interested in paying for ads, would be the cost, but we're not interested in any of that. Something else too that I always find fascinating is the charts. So how much people are searching certain topics or things. You can also do breakdown by locations and then platforms. And since most of the time Oh, that's actually shocking. So desktop is the most popular way of searching landing pages. I mean, most traffic is mobile nowadays, so I'm generally shocked to see almost 80% desktop for that. So that was something I learned. But anyways, so this is the starting point, landing pages, and this is just giving me ideas of like what people are searching. Typically, I'll organize it by like highest amount of searches to lowest. And this is just to give me an idea. And then since I know I'm going to be talking about SEO, let me just go landing pages, SEO. And I kind of just keep building off of this. And then once I find something that I'm kind of liking, so this isn't showing up right here, building landing pages for SEO. And usually this is like a 10-15 minute process where I'm just kind of putting in keywords that I think that I could talk a lot about, provide knowledge into, create content around it that's relevant to my site. And I know I did this for this landing page, so it's frustrating that I don't see the keyword that I'm specifically trying to target, but let me just put that one in. So this one is landing pages for SEO. There we go. And you'll notice that it gets dramatically lower amount of searches compared to like landing pages itself. It's only 480 average monthly searches. But this is a sweet spot for me, especially starting out, because if you're going after these top tier keywords like landing pages or things like that where they get a ton of searches, you're going to be competing with a lot of traffic. And then what I'll also typically do, and it's important to remember this, always go into an incognito window because your search results are going to change based off your browsing history. So if you're looking to find what's the actual true front page results per your area, so it's also changed based off location as well. But incognito is the best way to do that. So if I was going to look at landing pages, you'll see that there's a lot of these big name companies who are very popular on the web. So HubSpot, one of the best CRMs out there, Unbounce, Disruptive Advertising. I actually don't know who they are, but WordStream, I'm familiar with them. I'm familiar with Instapage. I don't know about these guys. I know MailChimp. Neil Patel. Wow, Neil Patel, I can't believe you're ranking at the bottom of the front page of Google. That's sad to see. But anyways, this is a very competitive term to be trying to get after. And then you'll see like there's tons of search results for this. So it's going to be really hard for you as someone who's just starting off with SEO to rank on the front page of Google for someone searching landing pages, which is why we're going after not as much traffic keywords like landing pages for SEO, because there's not going to be as much competition. I mean, sure, there's still like the bigger ones, like you get Yoast, HubSpot, Neil Patel, Unbounce, SEMrush, Instapage. Like those guys are always going to rank. Like you can't beat them at their own game. Like this is what they talk about all the time. That's what their websites are built for. Like they're of course going to rank for the front page of Google, but it might be a little bit easier to sneak in here because you're specifically going after a long tail keyword. And that's something I've seen success in my past, working with painting contractors, working currently for the tattoo industry. Like there's just these little smaller keywords that don't generate a significant amount of traffic, but they generate just enough amount of traffic where you can sneak your way into the front page of Google. And that's what we're going after for when we're coming up with a keyword idea. And that's why I always stress the importance of doing your research first. And then the other example of why it's important to do research is just, this one's familiar with me just because I was working with a client recently, is you might not be able to get actual results from SEO. So this is, whenever I'm working with a client, I always start off with a marketing analysis just to really get an understanding of their digital opportunities, because a lot, like I was saying, a lot of times people come to me with the interest specifically for SEO. And that's what happened with this client. Is I was working with a CBD ice cream company and they wanted to really focus on SEO because that's what they heard is going to be the best for them in the long term. And they were doing CBD ice cream and they wanted to start doing CBD cookies. And I was like, okay, there should be SEO for this because CBD, that's a really popular term. Oh, you can't do that because there's restrictions around CBD on advertising with Google. I had to use SEMrush for that one. But essentially what we found was there was no one searching CBD ice cream or CBD cookies on the web. It wasn't something that had enough traffic to warrant an SEO campaign specifically around those phrases. So I had to help them understand and deliver reasonable expectations for them as clients and let them know like, hey, we can't generate content because no one's searching for that content. We'd have to generate content specifically to just CBD alone and questions related to CBD. And then as more people are interested in CBD food related products, then we can start to switch our content over to that. And then again, with like painting contractors, so painting kitchen cabinets, if I'm going to work with someone who's out in Branson, Missouri, and that's their only service area, well, they're only getting 10 average monthly searches. So is SEO and the time that it takes and the effort put into it really justify the return on investment you're going to get from just less than 10 average monthly searches each month? No, not really. So you have to understand that maybe SEO isn't the best digital marketing strategy for your business or your service that you offer. There might be an alternative. So people aren't actively going out searching painting kitchen cabinets. So what I recommended to this client is do a postcard campaign, because people aren't aware that they want this. So you have to let them know. They're not actively searching it. So something like Facebook advertising, where you're boosting posts to a specific demographic in a specific area, that's going to be your best digital marketing compared to something like SEO, just because of the limitations around it in this specific area. So that's why I always stress the importance of doing your keyword research first. It's a great place to start out, and you can really understand if there's opportunities or not. And let's say there is. So let's say landing pages for SEO, that's a great opportunity. We're going to go after it. So here we are on the page builder. I already got this built. Essentially what I do whenever I'm building a landing page or anything like that, and I'm using Elementor, is I am going to the templates and I am finding something that works best for this. And that's exactly what this is everything that you see here. This was based off of this landing page template from Elementor. Look at it. It's almost exactly the same as what I built. I just copy and pasted some stuff that I had from my site already, so I'm not like making it harder for me to do the work. So usually that's where I start off, is I use a template. And from there, then we actually do the SEO to it. So I put everything in, and I essentially just start out with what's easiest. I write in what I know, I put everything that I want to include on the landing page, and then once I do that, you'll notice over here under Elementor, there's Elements, Global, SEO. SEO is the tab I'm looking for. And this is what's connected to my Rank Math plugin on WordPress to give me this data. And you'll see that it generates a score for you. So I'm at 94 out of 100, which is where I want to be. I want to be A or better when I'm doing SEO. So I want my scores to be 90 or above. You put in your keyword that you're trying to target. So this one's landing pages for SEO. And then it gives you all of these little things that you have to check mark off. And if you don't do these things, they'll show up as a red X. So everything that we're doing is, what's the title? So setting up amazing landing pages for SEO. I couldn't use the actual title that we're using for this presentation because it was too long for being good for SEO. Focus keywords inside the meta description. It is. When building landing pages for SEO, there it is. There's the keyword in the meta description. Focus keyword is used in the URL. So you'll notice that the URL I sent you isn't the actual URL on this page. And the reason for that is the page URL is my website, dos-m.com/landing pages for SEO. That is so I can get the SEO ranking or the factor for that and include my keyword in that URL. But that's hard to remember, hard to send out, especially if it's like communication through voice kind of stuff. So I always like to create these custom URLs with a redirect. So for example, I set up a subdomain on my directory of seo.dos-m.com, so that way I can accurately track who's visiting this landing page from this presentation. Just so that way you understand, like, hey, I didn't see that keyword in that URL he sent. It is, you just don't know it, because I'm good at what I do. But anyways, the keyword's in the URL. Focus keyword appears in the first 10% of content. So here it is. It's in the title. It's right there in the initial part of the text. Focus keyword is found throughout the content. So again, that's what I was talking about, where this keyword is constantly placed throughout it. It's a little forced in some cases, and that's not best SEO practice, but I was really trying to go after the score to look good. So other times I might sacrifice how something might read or look, so that way it's a little bit more natural. But you can't just be stuffing this keyword all throughout like your content for the sake of ranking on Google. That's just not going to work. Google understands that you're essentially spamming it. Content is 643 words long. That one's yellow because ideally you want more content. The best ranking content on Google typically, I believe, is like somewhere around like 1,500 words or something. I suck at writing such long format pages and stuff like that. So most of my content is never above 1,000 just because I'm not great at writing. I used to have someone on staff that would do the writing for me, and then I'd go back afterwards and implement keywords throughout their verbiage. And then we would get content like that in the past, but I got to make do with what I got. So for the sake of this one, it's only 643 words, and that's what's preventing me from getting like a perfect 100 out of 100 score. And that's the thing when it comes to digital marketing. Certain things have to be sacrificed at times because, again, with page speed, as much as I would like to make this a very fancy landing page, that would affect my page speed. And you'll see from DT metrics that I'm getting a B on this one. It's a little bit lower if you go look at like Google Page Speed Insights. It's not like the best. But again, that's because I have like these motion effects. I have like these entrance animations. If you hover over, there's certain things that happen. You just have to put a priority on what's most important to you. I want this to be visually appealing, so I sacrifice some of the performance of the page for the sake of aesthetics. Going back to this though, so focus keyword is found in the subheadings. That's what you see here, what I use to build landing pages for SEO. And then something I just want to mention when you're using this on the page Elementor one, sometimes these changes like don't reflect right away. So let's say I delete that keyword from this and it still shows it as like it's there. It probably because it is from other spots, but sometimes it doesn't reflect right away. I just want you guys all to be aware of that. So you might have to refresh the page, worst case scenario. Then looking at what else it says, oh, that one it was in real time. Sometimes it's not in real time for me. Sometimes I have to refresh the page, but this one is showing up in real time, which is great for the presentation. Things don't always work when we're doing presentations. But URL is 44 characters long. Again, you want to have a short URL, not something dramatically long. I'm linking to external resources. So these are these outbound links that I was talking about where I'm linking to all of these things right over here. You see, at least one external link with do follow was found. Yep, because you don't want to say don't follow this. There's a setting right here. So like, for example, if we were going to set something to do not follow, here's the link, edit, link options. You could add something to say don't follow this, and you don't want to do that for SEO. That's for like something else. Like let's say you're linking off to something and you're like, this is going to hurt my SEO or something like that. That's when you would set it to don't follow. You're linking to other resources on your website, which is great. Those are those blog articles that I was talking about. I haven't used this focus keyword before. That's essential. So like, I don't want to have two pages on my website going after the same keyword because essentially they cannibalize each other. Google doesn't know which page to recommend or is the most relevant page to recommend. So you don't want to have two pages specifically targeting the same keyword as like a double chance to rank. It's just going to hinder both of your pages' chances to rank. So just focus on one for each page. This talks about the title readability. This is more rank math. Like I didn't see this when using SEO, but it tells you just some like general best practices when coming up with like titles. So like you want to include like a number. So for this one, I use setting up amazing landing pages for SEO 2021 honest opinion or something like that. So that way I get the number incorporated. I have the positive or negative sentiment, which is like amazing. Power word, I think amazing is the power word in there. Those just get you a better click-through rate, which is why they recommend it in their SEO settings over here. And then content readability. These are again talking about like you don't want this massive long paragraph, like you want breaking up. I contain images or videos. And then I think I might have skipped over at some point, but another huge component of SEO is specifically SEOing your images. So if we look at this image, for example, and the details of it, you'll see here in the alt text, I'm including the keyword that I'm trying to target. So what are landing pages for SEO mobile screenshot? And then the title, it reflects that as well. And then I have a description that also includes that keyword. So that's what I usually do when I'm doing like alt text or stuff like that and coming up with the title and the naming of the image itself is I'm specifically tying the keyword to it. And then another thing for SEO, if you're a local based service, is that you can specifically incorporate geographical coordinates into your images. And that will help with your ranking factors to a specific area. So let's say I only serviced Boston, Massachusetts. Well, I would specifically tie in the geographic coordinates. So I use this I use this website, GeoImager, to do this. It's free to use. I have a premium plan at times whenever I'm doing these for clients. And again, this kind of goes more in relation to like if you're doing Google My Business SEO, but still important for a landing page, especially if like if this was tied again like to a specific service, so let's say it was landing pages for SEO businesses in Boston. Really weird term, not really practical, but just for the sake of this conversation, let's say we were trying to do that and I was targeting specifically Boston as an area. Well, in that keyword research, I would specifically be looking at Boston, and then I would have geo coordinates attached to these images to say like, hey, this image is located in this area. It's just one of these additional factors that affects your page rankings. And that's pretty much everything that I would do for or not everything, but for most part, everything that I would do for on page. I would make sure that I'm getting a good GT metric score. Ideally, I would like an A, but that's a little bit harder. Again, you're sacrificing things at times. So whenever you're using like a page builder like Elementor or Beaver Builder, any of those, page speed gets a little bit more complicated. It's hard to get a perfect score compared to like a custom coded website. So don't beat yourself up if you're not getting the most perfect score. As long as your site isn't taking like 10 seconds to load, you're golden. You just don't want something unbelievably atrocious in mobile or in loading speeds. As long as it gets loaded, you're fine. You don't have to worry too much. And then here's Google Search Console, which is what I was talking about. And here on the side, mobile usability. This is what I was talking about when you have to make sure that your sites are working on mobile. So this will notify you. So back on March 16th, it said I had an error. And then again, later at the end of March, it was telling me that clickable elements were too close together, content wider than the screen. And then it's no longer affecting because as soon as I get the notification, I go in and fix these things. And then I submit that or validate that I've actually done these changes. And this tells you everything too. So there was just a recent error that I was having on my site. So I think it was index coverage. Yeah, I have one error where a submitted URL was marked no index, and this is back in October 23, 2020. So when I first launched my website, I forgot to set my blog page as no index, and I just realized this when I was looking at Search Console today before this presentation that I forgot to validate this fix. So I just started the validation process, and it takes like between like 3 to 5 days, at most 2 weeks for that to actually take into effect. But the other components of Google Search Console that are crucial to SEO are sitemaps. So this is what you want to do is you want to submit your sitemap to Google Search Console. And this is essentially how Google crawls your website. So whenever you're making changes, you could submit a new one. This just recently read my website just because I submitted like a newer one. And this goes into all the categories that I have, pages, posts. If I had an e-commerce store, I would submit my product sitemap as well. And again, that's what I love about Rank Math. Let me go back to Rank Math so I can show you this. Is it will generate a sitemap for you. So super useful if you don't know how to do it in the other way. So let me go to Rank Math. So sitemap settings. There we go. And here it is where your sitemap can be found here, and then I can choose what I want to include in it. So I didn't even want my products. My products are strictly visual just for the sake of just explaining to my clients I can build an e-commerce store, but it's not the focus of my website. So I didn't want that included in my sitemap. So again, one of these benefits to Rank Math. Getting back over into here. And then another cool aspect of it, and this is what I was so excited to show, is like how it performs over time. So here's pretty much when this is last 3 months. Let's go last 6 months. So it's pretty much when I got started working on this website. You can see when you start out, there's very little organic traffic coming to your site. I made a goal of mine to do 3 blog posts a month. And here we are. I didn't do any for March, and I think I was slacking in February. I didn't do, I don't know. I'm behind on my blog posts. But essentially what's from ranking in the past is starting to rank now. And you can see it's an upward trend. And that's what we want. And that's the whole goal of SEO. And I can also see here what specific keywords are getting traffic to my site. So tattoo hashtags 2021. That's my most popular blog article, is blog best tattoo hashtags for Instagram 2021. Just because that was one of these unique keywords that I found an opportunity for and decided I could write content about that. And that's been the best for my website. And you can see best tattoo hashtags, tattoo promotion ideas. Again, this is the industry I'm going after. And I've found that I'm not getting as much traffic from my other kind of digital marketing blog posts and pages that I've built. So I've kind of switched my focus like as of recently to really just double down on what is working. So I'm going to be doing more of these kind of niche tattoo related industry tattoo industry related content because I've seen the best results from that. And I'm going to continue doing that because you want to stick with what's working. And this tells you more of, again, like what devices are visiting your site, your search appearance, things like that. Useful data. And you can also sync this with your Google Analytics. So you can find this data when you're browsing your actual analytics data. It's just that you get more specifically SEO related tools when using Google Search Console, which is why I stress its importance. And even if you're using something like Squarespace, you still want to have a Google Search Console set up and index your site with it. So that's kind of like on-page SEO. Next, we'll go into off-page SEO. So again, keep in mind, fairly new. It's only been 6 months. My authority score is really weak, and so are my backlinks. My priority was just actually creating that content. And once I get done with these last few blogs I want to create, well, then I'm really going to start focusing on publicizing these blogs and getting traffic to it. I was trying for a little bit where I was trying to network with other tattoo related industry websites to get them to share my content on their sites. And I was specifically targeting websites that had good authority score, but I was having very little luck with it. Like I said, I used to have a PR person that would help handle that stuff for me. I'm not the best at it. So it's a lot of networking is what you need to do. Some other good tactics for backlinks is doing guest blogs, which is again something I've been meaning to do. Just there's not enough time in the day to get everything done. But you can see here, this will tell you everything you need to know. So authority score, what keywords I'm like ranking for from this perspective that is just pulling up, and you'll see tattoo shop promotion ideas, best tattoo artist in Worcester, things like that. And then let's just use Apple as an example so you can actually see what a website that has been around and established for some time will actually look like that is super popular. And it's dramatically different. So authority score 94 because they're like one of the most popular websites on the web. Backlinks 9.1 billion. And then something else too about backlinks that I didn't mention is you don't want bad backlinks to your site. Like you want popular websites linking over. If you get unpopular websites linking to your site, you can disavow those backlinks. And that's a kind of difficult process and not something you really have to do too often. But in some cases, this is what I was working with a client on, is their website's SEO was being affected because of so many bad backlinks that they set up on their own. So we had to go contact those whoever was in charge of those websites and help us get those removed. And then there's a disavow tool if you can't get the website owner to remove the backlink for you. So it's something to just keep in mind. With SEMrush though, you get a lot of like really great things to specifically go look at, like a backlink audit. And again, Uber suggests free version of this. So here's my website, tells me some things. It tells me what critical errors I have. So like critical errors are 3 pages with duplicate meta descriptions. I need to go fix those. 7 pages have a low word count. I knew that. I suck at writing content. So a lot of my pages don't have the best word count. Warnings, these are just things to be aware of. Title tag too long, 8 pages with no meta description. That makes sense. A lot of the pages on my website aren't built for SEO priority, so I need to set those as no index sometimes. And then, let's see, yeah. And then this is specifically using the SEO analyzer tool from Ubersuggest. There's the keyword analyzer tool, which is a little bit different. So you want to use the SEO analyzer if you're trying to do this. And then here with this, you only get 3 daily searches available. So it's not something you could like consistently be doing all day. You got to spread it out over days. But what I do like about it is it gets your backlinks for you if you don't have something like SEMrush. So, and then this also just tells you like if you need to do keyword research. So again, with the case where I was working with a client where CBD wasn't on the Google network, I could do CBD ice cream here. And then you can specifically tie it to like a country, but you don't get that refined targeting of a specific area like a city or a county. So CBD, and let's do CBD cookies. And it's really not too much different from what you'll see on the keyword planner tool. There's some other useful aspects of it. So here you'll see CBD cookies get more volume than CBD ice cream. So that went up from the last time I saw it. But here's a good kind of score that you'll generate here. It tells you the keyword difficulty, so like your chance to rank on Google. And that's something that's super great about Ahrefs. Like Ahrefs, like that's the best tool if you're looking for something like that. That's inclusive in there. For a while, like a long time ago, I just kept on doing the 7-day trials. So that's something you can definitely get away with, is just keep creating email accounts and keep creating 7-day trials, and you can get the benefits of Ahrefs. So if you're really trying to save a penny, that's just a strategy. Just figure out how to offer that. And then let's see what else. Let's go into Moz. So Moz is these local citations that I was talking about. I'll use my business as an example. I'm going to be relocating in a couple of months. So this is why I haven't put any kind of focus or attention on it currently, is because my business address and my business phone number will change. So I really don't, like, it doesn't matter to me that things aren't working. So here it's looking specifically at, all right, digitally optimized systems to marketing LLC, digitally optimized systems to marketing LLC. It's got hours, it's got photos. It's making sure that the website link, the phone number, the address are all connected. And I would need this on Facebook. I would need this on Bing. And then there's all these other directory sites where all this information is just as important. Wow, I'm on there. Interesting. But these are just how you can benefit your local kind of backlink building, and it has an effect on your SEO overall. So this is a free tool where you can actually check this, and then I think they charge I think it's like $2 or something per website that you want to update it on, because not all of these are easy to go update it yourself. In the past, when I was working with like a client, I would go do this for them. Like we would go and update their information on all of these different directories to get this score of like 100% correct. Bright Local, again, one of these other great tools for citations. They have a great, so if you're not like stoked about Moz, you can use Bright Local. But I want to share Bright Local just for the sake of, like, let's say you're working with a client, or let's say you're working from home and you need to check on the SEO from a specific location. What's the first thing you're going to do? The first thing you're going to do is open an incognito window. Can't stress that enough. So you got your incognito window open. You go over to the local search results free checker. You enter your search term. So let's say I'm working with a hair salon company because I need to get a haircut. So hair salon near me is usually the most popular term when people are searching services or anything. It's pretty industry standard that most people include near me at the end. Search location, let's say it's Boston, Massachusetts, and I always spell Massachusetts wrong. Actually, this is Miami. What am I doing? I am sorry, everyone. Miami, Florida. So let's search Miami, Florida, and you can choose between Google Maps or Google Search. We're going to do Google Search for this one. You can pull up each page. We're only interested in page 1. If you want to hide a dead body, you hide it on page 2 of Google. Pro tip. So here's what happens if someone was searching from the center of Miami. This is what they're going to see in their search results if they've never searched this before. It's the first time they're searching. The first thing that's always going to pop up is the Google My Business listings. This is why I always stress the importance to my clients, like, hey, you might want to consider your Google My Business before you tackle SEO for your website. It ranks higher in the actual organic search results of Google. Then what you expect to always see is directory services. So Yelp is going to be almost always like one of the first things. Advent, Garden, Salon, and Spa. They are the first organic result. So just because I'm curious, this is what their website is. And this is also best practice if you're doing SEO for your website. See what's working for other people. So go put their website into one of these like online tools for checking like their off-page SEO. So let's go check them out. Wow, they have a ton of backlinks. They have great search traffic. What's their authority score? Let's see. I'm going to assume it's above 35. Oh, I was just shy of it. 33. Okay. So this is a great place to start. If you're a hair salon in Miami and you're trying to focus on SEO, take what's working from other people. So from here, you're going to go and look at their backlinks and see where they're getting their backlinks from, and see if you can get backlinks on the same sites that they're getting backlinks. Like, don't make things complicated. Try and get this as easy as possible. And you want backlinks from pages that have a high authority score. So this is pretty much just showing everything where they got their backlinks, and a lot of these don't make sense. These are just from other like sites that pull information across the web and they generate these backlinks on behalf of businesses. That's like the longer you've been around, the more backlinks you typically have is how it goes. So don't be like, how am I going to get a backlink on 69114nzinet.net? It's not going to happen. That's just like, yeah, it's not even a credible backlink. So like, don't fret. In some cases, look for things that make sense, make reasonable sense, and then go after those. And that's what I'm looking for right here. Is like, where is in a reasonable sense one? I'm not really seeing too many. So yeah, there's not really too many that I'm seeing that are pulling up where I'm like, this would be an easy spot to go get a backlink. And again, this is just one of these things. Like this is, I would argue backlinks are the most challenging aspect of SEO compared to everything else. And that's why it really helps to have a PR person specifically for that kind of stuff. So that, and then we talked about Geo Imager, and that's pretty much everything for the live demonstration. Let's go take a look at these questions, and let's see if I can help answer those. So let me pull that up over here and catch up on the chat. Let's see. A lot of people talking crap about Neil in the chat. What do you guys have against my guy Neil? Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. This is good. All right. So, hi, Tyler. Move to. Oh, this is an awesome platform, Carlos. All right, so can you describe the difference between a home page and a landing page? All right, so let's start with that. So a home page, that is essentially your all-encompassing landing page. It's your go-to landing page, but the difference between a home page and a landing page is that your home page is designed to deliver pathways to the user. So this is the example. Let me move over to this. My Google Chrome is always so slow, regardless of what website I'm using. So that's why I like to just, for the sake of presentations, use Microsoft Clarity. It's the fastest. So like this is my homepage for my website. And what this does is it delivers pathways. And essentially the pathway that I've seen most users take on my website if they're visiting my homepage is they're going to my services page. So that's the option there. And then, or they're looking for an example of my work and they want to see something recent that I created. I create this additional pathway for them. And then again, here's the navigation menu, which allows them to find everything else. So if they want to find the FAQ, if they're a tattoo artist interested more about my tattoo related information, my services, and free resources. These are like all the tools that I use in my business that are available for free. I don't really have too many other pathways. There's one for like my store, or you can schedule a discovery call from here. That's essentially what the homepage is. It's to make it as easy for the user experience as possible to find the information that they're looking for. A landing page is different because the whole goal of a landing page is so that way they don't have to take any additional steps to find what they're looking for. So for the example of like tattoo clients that I work with, here's the landing page that I send them whenever I'm doing like SEM, SEO, Google or podcast advertisements, things like that. All the information that they could possibly need is right here on this page that talks about the systems, the websites, the marketing, what I offer, how I'm mobile first, everything that I'm capable of doing for them, and then the offer for them specifically where they can get a customized digital strategy guide for free so that way I can get their contact information. That's the difference between a landing page. Is the whole goal of a landing page is that they don't need to go anywhere else. Everything that they need to find is right there, and there might be a little things here and there where they can learn more if they're specifically interested in web development. But for the example of like I have an AdWords campaign specifically for this phrase, tattoo artist websites. So for that, this is the landing page they would see because this is what they're most interested in. And it specifically talks about websites and not just everything else I do. So what web design platform is best? Do you just work with tattoo artists? How much does a website cost? They're most common questions that I get. And again, the offer. So this is, again, catering to the user experience so they don't actively have to go seek out information on your website. That's the purpose of a landing page, is to make it as simple as possible for them, because the sad reality of like websites is that people are spending like milliseconds, or not milliseconds, that's an exaggeration. They're spending seconds on your website. It's very rare that you actually get people that are spending more than a minute, 2 minutes on there. A lot of people are making their decision right there in these first initial moments, and if you're not catering to everything that they're looking for, they're bouncing, they're out. And that's something important too when it comes to SEO, is you don't want a high bounce rate, because that's going to affect your SEO score. If Google sees that people are coming here and they're immediately leaving and going back to what they're doing, that's going to affect how Google sees your page, because it's not going to see it as relevant content. Compared to if they come to this page, it's what they're looking for, and they're actually engaging with it and scrolling around and spending time on the site, that's the optimal scenario. And then just for the user experience perspective, you don't want them to seek out whatever they came there for. Okay. And then... Okay. Oh, that moved over. So do you have specific benchmarks for page performance? Yeah. So when it comes to GT metrics, typically I search for B or better. Whenever I'm building a site, I like B or better, especially, and this is specifically tied to the page that I'm building it on. Some pages are slower because there's more like custom effects that I have going on with it. With Google Page Speed Insights, a lot of websites that I see and some of them that I built don't get the best scores on mobile. But as long as I'm not getting any mobile errors on the Google Search Console and stuff like that, I'm okay with it. It's not thrilled, and page speed is something that I'm personally working on to get better at. There's plugins and things for that. Pretty much I go off GT metrics. B or better is essentially where I see are like the best results. But again, always compare it to whoever you're going after in terms of SEO. So in the case of like the hair salon, well, you have to set your benchmark as what their benchmark is. So here's this website. Let me pull up their thing, and let's go to GT metrics, and let's pull it in. Like, that's the benchmark. If you're specifically trying to rank as hair salon in Miami, well, you have to be doing better or almost as good as the people who are already ranking there. So again, that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing benchmarks. It's just take a look at whatever your competitors are, and then make sure like keep it B or better, because there's really no one else in the tattoo industry doing what I do. I really don't have too many competitors, which makes it a little bit easier for me as what I'm going after, because I don't have to compete with other people who are trying to rank for these keywords. For the example of like tattoo hashtags, let me open up in the incognito window. Tattoo hashtags 2021. I'm ranked number 4. And the reason for that is these websites, tophashtags.com and besthashtags.com, they're the most relevant to the algorithm's eyes. But maybe over time I might rank higher than them. But for now, Google sees me as pretty relevant. So it's ranking me up here on the front page of Google. And I don't really have too much competition other than these sites that are specifically for hashtags. So it's this little niche that I found that I just saw like opportunity within for what I could offer. On to the next question. So I've been making videos and posting them on my WordPress site as my blogs and putting the transcript below the video. I also do my keyword research and try to say my keywords when I record the videos as many times as I can while talking, so the keywords make it in the transcript. Is this okay for SEO? That is fantastic for SEO. I personally need to get back to you on if the actual captions work for it. Like if you're uploading the transcript, I would assume that would have a minor ranking factor in there, but I don't want to say it is. I would just need to verify that with like a Google search or something. But anything that you can do. So for the example of this is I am recording this on the side. This is going to be recorded by Carlos. Like I am going to take this presentation and then upload it onto YouTube afterwards, specifically titled the YouTube video what I have titled as my landing page, and then incorporate everything that I have in terms of content into the description, into the tags, because that's an additional ranking factor. In some phrases, so I don't know if it was painting kitchen cabinets, but let's just look up that real quick. So painting kitchen cabinets, some phrases that you search on the web, videos will show up. So right here, YouTube, right there, YouTube. DIY, how to paint your kitchen cabinets, how to paint your kitchen cabinets. So it's an additional SEO opportunity if you're putting your videos on YouTube, because it's another spot to rank on the organic search results. So repurposing your content for videos and uploading them to YouTube is best practices for SEO as well, just because it gives you the additional opportunity to rank, not necessarily in the organic listings, but if videos are pulling up to it. And then it's also just beneficial from people specifically searching those keywords in YouTube itself. So great job at doing that. Can't recommend that enough if and you're taking the extra step with also doing it within what you're saying in the actual in terms of the video and the transcript. So I would say that's a really good strategy. What's the difference in tags and keywords? The difference in tags and keywords. So tags in terms of, all right, so tags are how you would, so it's kind of like keyword is the hierarchy. So everything is focused around a keyword. That's the number one position. From there, you would then put tags underneath that. So tags can go related to that. And a good example I could have for that is maybe the blog. So let me go over, where is that website? So let's go over one of these blogs. So in here, building a landing page, I think is the keyword I'm trying to target. So building a landing page, that's the keyword. And here's the tag: building a landing page, digital marketing, landing pages, SEM, SEO. So they're just more descriptive around the keyword that you're targeting. What is the name for geotag the images? That is GeoImager. Let me pull up that link and I'll send that in the chat. Tool.geoimager. So I assume you like Rank Math better than Yoast. Yeah, I love Rank Math. I can't recommend them enough. I've been trying to get them as a sponsor for a podcast just because I think they do great stuff. When my web designer mentioned them to me and there was like, hey, I think we should check this out, I was a little skeptical at first because like Yoast was my go-to whenever I was doing any SEO for our business. That was like, I'm pretty hesitant for change at times. But as soon as I got within the platform and I saw its capabilities, I fell in love with it. So can't recommend Rank Math enough. My website adds 3 new articles to our Gazette page and 1 new article to our serial page a week. I can't plan the SEO in advance. How do I create SEO for them? My website, sorry, I'm a little confused by that. So my website adds 3 new articles to our Gazette page and 1 new article to our serial page. I can't plan, yeah. So I'm assuming these are online, the Gazette page and the serial page. So in that regard, how do I create SEO for them? It depends on your business. So for the sake of argument, like let's just keep using hair salons as an example. So let's say you're a hair salon and you're getting these publications in local newspapers and stuff like that. You should already be aware of what people are searching. So one of the first things I would do if you aren't already aware of that is go use that Google Keyword Planner tool and just get a giant list of keywords that you can have. So let me pull up something. So every client that I work with, this is the first thing that I look at all the time, no matter what. I'm always looking to see what the keywords are. And let me pull up an example of that. So here's one of my clients. I generate a CSV file for them. Oh, pulled up over here. Let me see. And I always have this, and I'm always referencing this. So this is specifically tied to Worcester, Massachusetts. It has like all the info surrounding it. And then Worcester County, I'm looking at the city and county. So these are all the keywords that are relevant to this business. And I just have this own personal formatting of what I use. Above 150 average monthly searches is what I would consider in the good range. These are like the top ones. So just in my mind, piercing places is the go-to for him. Tattoo shops is one of the go-to for him. Oh, and this is a perfect example, like not even just like in the tattoo industry. It was when I was working with cabinet painters, they would, in every part of the country, there's a different way of searching cabinet painting. For example, in Denver in the Northeast, they search painting kitchen cabinets. In the South, they would search painting kitchen cupboards. In other random rural parts of the country, they would search refinishing cabinetry. So each area has their own way of saying things or searching things on the web. So you should be aware of what people are searching related to your business and always have those in the back of the mind so that way you know to include them for wherever you're doing publications, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Google My Business, whether it's in an article, always being aware of that. So strategy These are like I said, I always start with like a strategy guide for my clients. This is one that I just recently did, and that's what I talk about, I think, here in keyword opportunity. Nope, that must have been a different one. But sometimes I will say at the bottom, the most important keyword for you to keep in mind is tattoo shops, just because that's the most important phrase that is being searched as much as possible. Like you'll see here, tattoo shops is getting searched like 3 times, if not more, compared to something like tattoo parlors or tattoo places. But in that regard, tattoo shop is going to be more competitive. So an easy way to sneak in is by targeting tattoo parlors or tattoo places. So just understanding what keywords are being searched in your service area will help you plan for SEO, even if you don't actually have a plan for it. On to the next question. What is a bad backlink? A bad backlink is a backlink that's coming from a site with a very low domain authority. So when we're looking at like my site, for example, like my site was like a 4 or 8, I think, in terms of domain authority. That's not going to be like if I was referring off to another site, that might not be the best backlink just because it's not coming from one that's super high. But like I would say my site is credible. You don't want it coming from like a super spammy, really bad website. So let's go to the bottom of this and see if they have any bad backlinks for this hair salon. So let's go all the way to page 600. Oh, I don't have the premium plan for that. I'm sorry. Let's see. I'm trying to think of it where's an easy example. Essentially, if the domain, like if the authority score, so let's go back to where I was looking at this. These are the good ones that they're getting. If their authority score is 0, 1, or 2, or like pretty much any single digit number, that might be a bad backlink. And then you want to go check it out. So for example, actually, this one is a good example. So 69216.z18net, that's not a good backlink. This is crap. That's a bad backlink. I wouldn't want that linking to my website. This isn't credible. It's coming from a not secure website. This isn't the best, even though they somehow have a good authority score. So that what I would say is a bad example of a bad backlink example. Hi, Tyler. Do you have any SEO advice, checklist, procedure for a redesign of an established existing website? I don't have any access to my client's current website platform other than expecting the current website pages. Can you offer any guidance? Yes, I can. I just recently finished working on a website for one of my clients regarding that. So they were working with a web platform agency where they didn't give me any control. All I could do was take a look at what pages that they had. So the first thing that you want to do when doing that with a client in that example is you want to generate a list of all the pages that they have already on their website. So let me go find that real quick of what I did for this client, so I can show you how I sketched that out. And the reason for that is because you don't want to rebuild your site and be missing any URLs that people would normally send people to. So it would just be easy to send an example. So give me 1 second. URLs accounts. Hopefully there's no private data on this. So here's an example of all the old URLs that they had. So they had this one for Meet the Team. I redirected that to the homepage. Available Designs, that was essentially their tattoo page. I redirected that to the homepage. Custom Jewelry, I redirected that to the piercing page because I changed the URL. So if you actually go to this URL, it's going to redirect you to the piercing place page that I built for them. And this is specifically targeting Worcester piercing place because that adds it to a geographical area. And that is like piercing place was searched more often than piercing shop, which is the reason for that verbiage. So that's what I would do. I have a list here of like, for example, these are all the new URLs that I created. If I had to do any redirects, I put in what the focus keyword was. So for example, like a home page, that is what I typically reserve for optimizing for the business's name. Because again, I don't really write too much words on a website. And for like my tattoo artist clients, they're not looking for words, they're looking for imagery. So there really isn't too much SEO value to something like that. The piercing and tattoo pages we were able to generate enough content on, and then specifically like their aftercare, I turned those into posts and blogs rather than pages like they already had. So they originally had these as pages on their old site, and I repurposed these as blog posts but kept the same URL so there wasn't any redirect. And the reason for that is blogs and posts tend to have a better ranking opportunity than pages do. So in certain scenarios like this for the aftercare, it was just best that we repurpose them as posts. So that's my recommendation with that. Create a list of everything and then take a look at, or make sure you set up the redirects.